Hi, I'm Wolfman Sam, here with my co-host Johnny Buff Guns.
Hello.
And we are Creatures of the
Night.
How you guys doing? John, you want to start us off?
Yeah, sure. I guess, again, no particular order. I'll start with the Christmas presents I got for Blu-rays and DVDs I got this past Christmas. Well, these two I bought right here, Terrifier 3 and Alien Romulus. This I bought with my own Christmas money I got. I did not want to open up Terrifier 3 and scare my little niece and nephew of a killer clown Santa Claus.
Right.
Yes, and I read already a year since Godzilla -1 won the Academy Award.
Yeah, Godzilla -1. Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this
More
is
movies
actually
I have to see.
Yeah, this is a folklore horror film I have not heard about. My dad showed me. It's called The Dark Secret of Harvest Home with Betty Davis, David Aykroyd, and Rosanna Arquette.
All right.
Have you ever heard of
make
it?
sure they can see that. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. And I got Suspiria on Blu-ray 4K. I watched it last night. It was awesome to watch.
It is an awesome movie, especially for. I know I don't particularly care for 4K, but like I said, it's sort of like Blu-ray in that it has to be sort of a visually stunning movie for it to work.
It was.
And Suspiria is.
Well, it's funny, like watching Suspiria, I think myself, such a colorful film, but yet it's so scary and creepy, and it really gets under your skin after a while sometimes.
Yeah, and it's the film that every hipster, I think, from the modern day has been ripping off in terms of color scheme.
Well, it's
mentioned a couple podcasts ago that I saw the film Mandy, and I guess the director of that was a big Dario Argento fan, or really wanted to be like Dario Argento / Kubrick, and he just for lack of a better term, he just kind of ripped it off, in terms of visual. So
right. I have never seen Mandy, but I've heard about it, and
it's an interesting movie. Nicolas Cage is the best thing about that movie.
Right. Back in 2020, I did a podcast with my friends about like our favorite horror films of the decade in 2020, and my friend thought the remake to Suspiria was alright. My other friend said he didn't like the remake, saying that it was like a hipster, dumb knockoff in his opinion. But I can respect that he likes the original Suspiria, which is fine.
Right.
I haven't seen the remake. I can't make a comment. I might check it out, but I make no promises on that part.
Exactly.
Yeah. And this is A Simple Plan by Sam Raimi, a non-horror film, but a great drama film. It's basically like Treasure of the Sierra Madre, where you have these three guys who find, like, drug money in the middle of nowhere, and they're the kind of people where, like, after finding this money, it changes their life, and they become different people, and also, just when they thought, like, a simple plan went forward, it didn't always work forward. This is a great drama film by Sam Raimi.
I'll have to check it out.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
It just shows that the guy is talented. The guy can do more than just horror movies. And Nightbreed by Clive Barker. I still haven't seen this yet, but I hear this is like one of his like films he directed where it had a lot of student interference, but that was a cult following because of the director's cut. Have you ever seen this?
Yes, I have. I actually own the comic book as well.
Right.
It's one of Clive Barker's best, I think.
Right.
It's right up there with Hellraiser. If you guys have not seen it, give it a watch. It's a great, great movie. And the comic, if you can track down the comic is basically a one-to-one version of the movie, at least the first issue that I have. I don't know if any of the other issues kind of take liberties. I have no idea, but definitely check that out.
Right. And here is Deadpool and Wolverine. There are 206 Blu-rays, 207. I'm watching this movie.
Yeah, that one was a great movie. Deadpool and Wolverine. I enjoyed that. Saw that in the theaters.
Same.
Great movie, and I love the fact that we got to see Wolverine finally in the yellow and classic.
After 20,
After 20 years. I specified that when I watched it. I was like, 20 years for this. 20 years for this.
Like Deadpool said, Fox killed off Logan. Disney bought him back. He's going to keep doing this till he's 90.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things.
And I know you are an A24 disliker person, but I got the movie.
But yeah,
X novelization.
I know you're a big fan of X, and maybe I'll actually get around to doing it maybe I'll put my hatred aside and
Right.
I'll get around to doing it.
Right. Once you watch this and Pearl and how great Mia Goth is, you might change your mind. Well, I know that makes you an A24 fan, but you might just enjoy because this was
Right. I've enjoyed films from either directors or studios that I don't particularly like.
right. That's fair, and
But that just happens.
right. And
Or
this is
the
a
Batman.
Batman. This is a Batman comic book called Contagion. Basically, it's like where a pandemic, where this virus is going around. But this was way before COVID at the time. This was like back in the
Interesting.
'90s.
It's a
But
little bit prolific.
to a degree,
A little bit.
as when you read this comic, you're saying to yourself, "How predictable!" And who knew at the time?
Yep. Well, yeah. And let me ask you a question, because we're coming off the heels of Christmas a little bit, Christmas and New Year's. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, everybody. By the way,
Yes.
do you agree that Batman Returns is a Christmas movie?
Right. It depends on the person how you want to put that. And
I've always believed it is because it does take place on Christmas.
true.
And there's a lot of it's not just. It's kind of like it's a more Christmas movie, I think, than Die Hard.
Yeah.
Die Hard has references here and there, and I think a Christmas tree or whatever. But
Yeah.
Batman Returns has Christmas tree lighting
Yeah.
scene. There are lines, referencing Christmas, so it's most definitely a
Yeah,
Christmas
that's
movie,
true, and
I think.
especially when Selena Kyle kisses Max Shrek. How about a sit kiss? Sorry. How about a kiss Santa Claus and
Right, and the whole ballroom scene between Bruce Wayne and Selena Kyle under the
right,
mistletoe.
right. Mistletoe can be deadly if you eat it, but a kiss can be
Right,
deadlier if you
right.
mean it.
I watched that scene recently because somebody one of my favorite guys had posted about it, saying that Nolan had been trying to outdo this scene, and
Yeah.
you can't.
No.
It like I said, and I will always champion this. Gotham was never really the same after Burton left.
That's true.
In terms of a live action, I'm not talking about the animated series. Animated series understood what Gotham needed to be, which was timeless, not
Yeah.
Chicago. But I think what really, and I say this as liking Dark Knight and liking Batman Begins, but I think really the effect that Nolan had, the negative effect, is he kind of made Gotham and Batman lose its mystique and timelessness by kind of setting it in the real world. And I wish we can have a Batman film that goes back to the Burton era, where things are a little bit more comic booky.
Yeah.
Just a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, as I always say, compared to when you look at the first two Burton Batmans and then the two Schumacher films, Burton's Gotham City style was all gothic, whereas Schumacher's Batman looked like laser tag or Vegas.
Right.
Yeah. Not much dark gothic atmosphere in the Schumacher Batman movies.
Exactly. Yeah. And it still blows my mind when I think about hearing the headlines that Burton's Batman Returns was too dark.
Yeah.
And even though they marketed it to kids,
Yeah.
stuff originally, and I remember hearing that they marketed it to kids before the film came out or something like that, something to that effect. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on it. But it sounded like kind of the studio kind of didn't know what they had, and like I said, it's someone said, a guy I watched by the name of Razorfist said, you can have, and I don't know if this is a perfect analogy for Batman specifically, but this was in reference to Return to Oz, where the Wizard of Oz books, and that, things for children can have a little bit of darkness,
Right.
Can be a little scary. Now I don't know if that's a perfect analogy for it, but I happen to agree. I mean, listen, I think Batman Returns is well, I wouldn't say for a really young kid. But I would say maybe like 9, 8 years old, maybe.
Well,
You know?
when I was a kid, I was restricted not to watch that movie because of like the certain scenes with the penguin biting a guy's nose,
Yeah,
or
it is a little bit of gore and stuff, and
yeah. But like a lot of kids at that time were afraid of the penguin, but not me. I never felt afraid of Danny DeVito's penguin. And like my dad said, around the time when the film came out, McDonald's had a promotion of toys. But when the film came out, being considered too dark, McDonald's canceled the Happy Meal promotion.
right, right, and like I said, I think it's fine. I think that movie's fine for kids, but I
Yeah,
think
no, it's
I think that's more for an older audience of kids, like
yeah.
maybe like 9, 10, 11, as
Well, as a
opposed
kid,
to.
I didn't think much about the dark. I just was like, oh, it's a Batman film. I want to watch it.
Right, right. It
Batman's in it.
depends on, like, me as a kid. I would have loved it. I would have maybe been a little scared of it, but I would have loved it all the
Not so
same.
much for me. I wasn't that. I was still more scared of Michael Myers than Danny DeVito's Penguin as a kid.
Right, right, right. Exactly. But with that said, what else we're talking about today?
Let's say Black Christmas turning 50, and we
Oh,
recently lost the
that's
lovely,
right. That's
talented
right.
Olivia
That's right.
Hussey.
Yeah, one thing we have to talk about is the passing of Olivia Hussey, one of the stars of the original Black Christmas, the 1974 Black Christmas. Yeah, she just passed away a couple of days ago, and She was also in one of the Psycho sequels. I think it was the fourth
Yeah,
one, the New Beginning, whatever one went
yeah,
back to his childhood.
yes,
She was also in Stephen King's It, the original
yes.
miniseries from the '90s. She had a brief cameo in that. But seriously underrated actress for sure,
Yeah.
and
Well, also like
she'll
her
be
big
missed.
her big really claim to fame really is playing in the 1960s Romeo and Juliet movie.
Yes, that's right. That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, my mom tells me saying how she remembers when she was a little girl, like seeing that back in the '60s when it came out because it was such a big deal. Because I don't know if it was the first, but I guess it was probably one of the early, I guess, Romeo and Juliet movies for the time. Especially they were being more true to the book, the story, I guess. But I don't, I'm not really much of
Yeah,
a
I'm not sure. I'm not
Shakespearean
sure. I
guy,
think I saw
and
that years ago, but
I never seen it, but I've heard about how good it is.
it doesn't ring a bell.
I don't know. I never saw it, but I'm familiar with the film because of who Olivia Hussey is and a story here. I met Olivia Hussey back in 2022 at Chiller Theater. She was a very, very nice person to meet and talk to. And when I was waiting for her online, some people were meeting her because of a few other reasons. They wanted to meet her because of Romeo and Juliet or Black Christmas. Me, it was Black Christmas. That's why I met her.
Right, right, and
Right.
that's definitely a bucket list. That's definitely a bucket list.
Yes, it was.
Check
And
off for sure.
when I met her, and as I edit this video, you'll see the photo that I'll be inserting is where I was wearing a Halloween T-shirt because we both agreed and had a conversation about how that the original Halloween overshadowed the original Black Christmas at the time because it wasn't a big hit, but became a cult classic in the later years.
Which it's a shame because I truly believe that the original Black Christmas is so much more darker than Halloween. Not to put any disrespect on Halloween. I love the original Halloween
Yeah,
movie, but
yeah,
there's so much more. There's so much more substance, and it's so much more darker and uncomfortable. And there's a. I talked about this in my movies in a nutshell review that's on my channel, Wolfman Sam. If you guys are interested, um, it is a short review. That's how I do them. Is they're very very short. Um,
that's my curse. I can talk well depending on the film. I can either go into more detail or like it depends on like what I'm feeling about the film, what's coming from my heart about how I felt about.
yeah, and
So
I always do things off the cuff. So
right,
just keep in mind for the audience if I tend to stutter during the review or whatever. That's just me literally doing off the cuff. But yeah, I wanted to do these short little reviews for you guys, just because I've been streaming on Twitch, and I've been just kind of putting a little bit more feelers out there on YouTube because I've been having trouble streaming on YouTube. So I've been doing these little mini reviews weekly. Hopefully, it stays weekly. We have to see. But with that said, going back to Black Christmas. Sorry, I went on a little bit of a rant. A little bit of a shameless plug here. Yeah, going back to Black Christmas, there's nothing quite like it. If you guys have not seen the original Black Christmas, definitely see it.
Skip the remakes.
Yeah, skip the remakes. Go to the specifically 1974 original. Look for that one because there's nothing like it. I think today it's even aged even better because certain subjects in the movie. I know you know which subject I'm probably talking about.
Yes.
I'm going to try to keep this spoiler free. If you go into this movie completely blind, it's the best because it's probably one of the more vulgar and darkest holiday movies you'll ever witness. Which is funny because the director is Bob Clark of Christmas Story fame. So he went on to first make one of the darkest like Christmas movies and probably one of the most beloved just like 10 years later.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So
that shocked me when I first realized the connection, how this was done by the same guy who did A Christmas Story when I first saw Black Christmas, and it's ironic how he did a Happy Jolly Christmas movie and he did a very dark horror Christmas movie.
Right. Exactly. And it's one of those things of wow, talk about going from one side of the spectrum to the other.
Yeah.
Not to say that, directors can't do that. I mean, look at Joel Schumacher. Joel Schumacher did some dark movies before most people know him for Batman and stuff. Some people know him for Falling Down, one of my favorites.
Yeah, or 8mm. That's a really good
8mm is a twisted movie.
Yes.
I love that movie.
Yes.
But yeah, it's kind of jarring when you realize when you do some research into directors and you realize what they did. And a lot of them start in horror films. A lot of them start in horror films. Sam Raimi started with Evil Dead. And that's probably one of our biggest inspirations in terms of being a filmmaker. I mean, you college kids straight out of college, just between movie magic and a very, very limited budget, they make the first Evil Dead, which I still looks good.
Yeah.
Even in some of the cheaper stop motion effects, you have to keep in mind, what went into that. And I think that's why a lot of modern audiences are critical because they don't really pay attention to the amount of work that goes into it, as well. But that's just my opinion.
When my dad first showed me Evil Dead when I was a teenager, when I was finally getting into horror films, I was amazed and impressed. Like, wow, this guy was later directed Spider-Man. This was one of his first movies when he was a college student at the time.
Right. And I remember hearing, because we grew up with the original Tobey Maguire Spider-Man.
Yes.
I remember first hearing Sam Raimi. I'm like, why is that familiar? And as a kid, I discovered the Evil Dead movies later. Actually, no. I have a funny story about Sam Raimi. My first Sam Raimi exposure actually was Army of Darkness.
Really?
Army of Darkness was the first Evil Dead movie I saw. Was the first Sam Raimi movie I saw, and then I saw Spider-Man in theaters.
Right. Well, for me, I had no idea. For me, it was I saw Spider-Man first, but I had no idea who he was, and it's just how I write. I think to myself, this guy's been a part of my life, my childhood, but I just did not realize who his name was until later.
Yeah, and you don't really put the pieces together,
right?
And stuff like that.
Whether some people will agree with me with this or not, he did a baseball movie that I don't think is not as bad as they say it. It's not great or perfect, but again, coming from someone like me who was a big diehard baseball fan, he did a good job directing a baseball movie about this aging pitcher who has a tough dilemma. Does he retire? Does he get traded?
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, it's not the greatest, but it's not that bad as they say it is. And
right.
Yeah, but you know what it is? I think it's because it's the kind of film that no one would expect Sam Raimi to do, a baseball drama movie.
Well, much like actors, directors get typecast.
That's
You
true.
guys
Yeah.
just get typecast, and they're like, oh, what, the guy who did so and so, you want him to do this picture, and it's really like you never know what you got
Yeah. Well, like I said,
until you try it.
like I said, A Simple Plan is another example showing how Sam Raimi can do more than just like comic books and horror movies.
Yeah, I mean, people can change and try different things. It's kind of like
Yeah.
how we were talking before the podcast. Even though I was kind of like a little worrisome. I'm trying to create content and stream and all this stuff, and like anything creative, we take it day by day. And we always try every podcast to say that to our audience, you can do it. You can
Yeah.
do it. And sure, there's no promises in life, but give it a
Bro.
shot. You'll
Yeah.
surprise yourself. I'm surprising myself every day by trying this content creation
Hey,
out.
I was surprised myself during COVID when I made my own YouTube videos. Again, I didn't go to school for editing. I just self-taught myself.
Right, and from one guy to another who, I edit my videos, but I will say this to my audience, I'm a mediocre editor. You are a
Right.
much better editor
I
than
don't
I
know.
could ever
I
be.
appreciate I appreciate the praise, but I don't know. It depends. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing is we do what we can, and
Yeah.
there's no promises in life. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep doing what I can to keep entertaining you guys, whether it's this podcast, streaming, or whatever.
Yeah.
And we just hope that you guys are having a blast watching us or listening to us or however you're viewing us.
Right.
And yeah, and we hope, I hope that whatever struggles you're going through,
Don't give
um,
up.
yeah, don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on yourself. And believe me, I quote unquote brainworm about a lot of things. I'm always worried about tomorrow. I'm always
We're
worried
human.
about, like, oh, is this good enough? Or, oh, am I good enough? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, just keep going. You never know. You
Right.
never know. And listen, things are gonna get hard, but you got to keep
Bro.
on going.
Yeah. And also, one thing I wanted to touch upon with Black Christmas, I did a YouTube video about it this past October around Halloween time. Me and my friend discussed about what makes Black Christmas so great. It's the kind of film with like no answers. It's the kind of like film you can like analyze how you view the
Yeah,
characters.
there are some, because without giving you spoilers away, there are more questions left by the end than answers.
Right,
In a good
right,
way. In a good way. It's
right,
not one of those films you just go, huh? What did I just watch?
right.
No, it,
But
it, it leaves a very cold and unfeeling kind of taste in your mouth. Like,
right.
you almost want to take a shower after you're done with the movie. It's just it's a cold and unfeeling, vulgar little movie.
Yeah. And the other thing too, it shows that like Bob Clark said in an interview about how like despite we all think Christmas is the most happy, jolly time of year, and he says even bad things can happen at Christmas.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's I believe he said it was the anti-Christmas movie.
Yeah, that was basically the idea of what he wanted to take Christmas and make into a horror movie.
Right, and it's one of the best for sure.
Yeah, yeah. But I remember, like, before I knew about the original, I remember in 2006 when the remake came out, even though, mind you, yes, there was internet, I could have Googled it, but I did not know that it was a remake at that time. I thought it was its own thing before, years later, as I got older, when I went to college, when my friends told me about Black Christmas, I'm like, oh, there's an original. I didn't know that because I was familiar with the remake. Thank God I saw the original first and not the 2006 turd remake.
Yeah, my experience with it was really weird. I don't even remember. I think I saw it on a top 10, like an MTV top 10 scariest movies of all time.
Right,
I
right.
I think that's what it was called, and it was a really cool show. Um,
It was
I wish they.
Bravo's 100 Scariest Movie Moments.
Yes, yes, that's what it was. That's what it was.
Yeah,
And I was like, "What's this movie, Black Christmas?" And it showed the original. Now, I
right.
didn't know about the 2003 remake
Six,
until I
2006
saw it.
remake.
Till I saw it in Walmart, actually, on the shelf. I'm like, I'm like, wait, is this the original? I was like, this
Right,
is like the
right,
original.
right.
And I think I saw a trailer for it years ago, the remake, and I was just like, they can't remake this movie.
When I first saw it, I was like, I hated it, and I felt like it was an insult to the original. And again, no disrespect, if you like this movie, that's fine. But in my opinion, I did not see what the big deal is. Like, why this has a cult following all of a sudden. It's like I just don't
Yeah,
get it.
that's kind of like how I feel about both the like Toolbox Murders. Have you ever seen
No,
Toolbox Murders?
no.
Okay, okay. So I'm pretty sure none of you watching know what I'm talking about. So Toolbox Murders originally was like a 1970s like run of the mill slasher, right? Um, they had quote unquote remade it. I don't know if you can see the quotes, but they had quote unquote remade it. Toby Hooper had remade it, but it's a completely different movie, and that like the plot is different and it's good. What I know about it though is a lot of people kind of crap on the quote unquote remake for not being like the original, and I'm like, I don't get it because it's completely different. It's a different movie with the same name, right?
What is it called again?
Toolbox Murders. Check
Okay,
them.
never never heard
Check
of it.
them both out. I recommend for Johnny here and for our audience. Check both the 1970s version out, the original, and then
Right.
I believe it's 2005. I
Let's
could
see.
be
From what
wrong.
I'm seeing, it's 2004. So
2004.
you
Okay.
were close, and
Yeah, so yeah, check out the 2004 one. It has one of my favorite underrated actors, Angela, and I could be pronouncing her last name wrong. Bates,
never heard of her.
or I'm probably butchering the last name, but she was in a film, 2002 film called May. And
I've heard of that.
if you guys have not seen that movie, get a watch. It is one of the most underrated classics. I think it's a classic. It's
Right.
underrated. It's underappreciated, much like the protagonist slash antagonist. Give it a
Right.
watch. 2002 May. It could be
Let
2001.
me see. Well, I have the Wikipedia up,
I'm
so let's.
terrible with numbers,
No,
folks.
you're right. You're right. 2002 was when May came out. I've heard of this, but I've never seen it.
Yeah, definitely give it a watch. Definitely give it a watch. Everybody, give it a watch. I might actually review that movie in a bit. I'm not entirely sure.
Right.
We'll have to see. Just as my
And
other
also,
content, just look out for
just
movies in a nutshell.
when one remake was bad at Black Christmas, they did it again, and that was, oh my god, just
Yeah, I
another
was not
worst
even
remake I ever
aware that
saw.
they remade it again. It was you, John, that told me that they're like, I'm like, again? It was
Right.
Carrie. It was Carrie all over again. I heard that they remade Carrie with I forget her name, but
Chloe Grace Moretz from 2013.
Chloe Grace Moretz. Thank you.
Yeah, that one I saw once. It wasn't that good. Actually, I
Yeah,
saw
I
that
heard
one
they remade
rated.
it, and I'm like, I remember the 2003 one. Like once wasn't enough. I was
Yeah,
like, what are they gonna
right.
remake the sequel, the straight to video sequel, The Rage?
Right.
Crazy.
Like I said in one of the previous podcasts, I saw Texas Chainsaw 2013 in the theater with a friend of mine, and I wasted my money. Same thing with the Carrie remake. I saw it with a girl I dated, paid for both tickets, another waste of money.
Right, right. That's kind of my experience with everything Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like I saw the film Leatherface, the other prequel to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, a waste of time. It was a waste of
Right.
time.
Right.
And then I saw the requel Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Whatever.
The most recent one, or probably by the time they recorded, is probably not going to be the most recent one.
Right.
What the requel one, the one that tried to basically copy Halloween Kills, but for Texas Chainsaw Massacre, just called Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Like you said, use numbers.
Use numbers, don't use dates, okay?
Right.
Or subtitles. Like give us like Texas Chainsaw Massacre or Restart, the Revengeing, the Saw is Family, or something that indicates that this
Yeah. Like
that we can
why?
keep track of this as fans.
Well,
Like
Scream is the one exception to get away with it because they pay parody the requels. That's the
right,
difference.
right. And
Whereas,
not
like,
to quote Dennis Miller here, not to get off on a rant here, but numbers are your friend.
right,
remember, remember numbers. Because I feel like like the big old grandpa, and like when kids say, "Wait, Halloween? Do you mean the 1970s original? Do you mean the requel with old lady Jamie Lee Curtis? Do you mean the sequel to that, or And
right.
I'm like, okay, it started in
Let's
'78. Okay, everything after that has been a sequel and remake. And it's just like remember
we
numbers,
should
guys.
we
Remember
should write a
numbers.
book like a book of horror franchises for dummies or something like that, where
Yeah,
how to.
it's definitely book material. I mean,
Bro, that's sort of the way
yeah,
I felt about. Don't get me wrong, Alien Romulus was good. It's like, okay, I get it. It's
yeah.
a
That's like
mid-roll,
a in between,
yeah,
like
but
a
it's like, can
tweener.
we please make a sequel for God's sake?
Right,
That's my
right,
complaint.
right. Or get back to Alien when Alien was Alien.
Right.
I mean, I know. Listen, this is a hot take I have with the Alien franchise. My favorite Alien movie is the first movie.
Same.
I don't I don't like Aliens
That's okay.
simply for the. It's a good action movie. I don't like Aliens simply for the fact that they made the xenomorphs or the aliens vulnerable.
Right.
What made the aliens so scary in the first movie is you could barely kill it. The
Right.
only way that Ripley could kill it is flush it out of airlock, and even then, it's
What last year I showed it to my dad the first time. It's amazing, like what he's never seen. He never saw Aliens till last year, and he liked
oh
it
yeah. I have a whole list of movies
when Ripley is like holding
I've
on
never
to
seen.
the when Ripley is holding on to the thing when the Queen Alien's trying to drag her. My dad said in real life she should have had her her arms torn off from
Right, right, but
right
uh, suspension of disbelief. But
right right
but
right
that's
and
my opinion. That's my
because
opinion on the Alien
did you
franchise.
see
Alien has not been Alien since the first Alien movie.
right? Did you ever see Prey? Because that what's good about that movie, it was not anything. It was just
I
its own
yeah no,
thing.
I have to
Oh, it
see
was
that.
really good. It takes place 1700s, back when they did not have the limited technology to fight predators. I'm like, this is great.
Interesting.
Oh no, it is. That's what made it so good. It wasn't like no requel or no. It was just its own thing. You don't have to watch Predator before this movie.
That's pretty cool. I'll have to check it
Yes, it
out.
was. Prey.
Prey.
Yes, it's called Prey.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll have
it
to
takes
check that
place
out.
1700s. Native Americans versus the Predators.
Nice.
Yes.
Awesome. That sounds
Yeah.
awesome.
But what's funny is, just like anything, they had to pay a little homage to the first movie. Like when me and my dad were watching it, I predicted the line, "If it bleeds, we can kill it."
Well, and here's the thing I never understood about any of the sequels with
Predator.
Alien,
Oh,
right? They have a lot of comics that they can adapt as well,
right, they
right?
do.
The entire like Marvel, actually I think it's Dark Horse
Yeah,
comic line.
yes.
Maybe Marvel
But
also did it. I'm
I'm
not
not sure if it
entirely
was
sure.
80s and 90s. The Dark Horse were very big on like the Alien Predator comic books.
But I say adapt those.
Yeah,
Kind of what I've been preaching about Star Wars. If you really want to, well, first you got to like hard reset Star Wars because Star Wars
yeah. I was
fried.
at I was having a conversation with someone on social media about how, like, it's not that I didn't hate the sequel trilogy. I just think that they were not worth the hype that they thought they were.
No, no, the sequel trilogy made me mad. I liked Force Awakens. I thought it was a good movie. My special thank you to all the fans that were there on opening night. You guys made it like a rock concert. You gave me one of the best movie experiences I've ever got ever. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Well, it's funny you say that. For me, I saw it opening night too with friends, and I did like it when I saw it opening night, but then on more viewing since then, it's like, okay, I don't hate it. It's just like, it's the first movie all over again, and,
Right. And to clarify, we're talking about the first movie as in the New Hope, as in original
Force
trilogy first
Awakens.
movie.
Yeah. When
Um,
I saw it, but again, sometimes I ask myself, was my mindset different at that time compared to now? I don't know. It's
well, that's the thing. Sometimes we go back to movies that we thought we liked,
yeah,
and
true.
we just sour on them,
Yeah, true. That's
because
happened to
there's
me a few
something
times.
we notice about them that was like, why did I like this movie and stuff?
Right. Like
And
the Batman versus Superman. I don't hate or love it. I thought it was all right, but it's like, I kind of see now. I mean, again, Affleck was a good Batman. It's not him. It's just
right.
it was rushed. They tried way too hard. They were trying to catch up
Yeah,
to
they
what
tried to
Marvel
play
was.
catch up with Marvel, and it's evident. You could see that.
Yeah.
And they're still trying to with this new
Yeah, but
Superman movie.
I've given up on. Well, I mean, I know there's a new Superman film like it's that's coming out this year, which I'm like, okay, there's no Man of Steel, there's no Wonder Woman showing up. It's just Superman. I'm like, okay, I'm okay with that. Just
But
do
I
Superman.
but I see that they're also trying to like make Justice League too. There's
Uh,
Hawkgirl and Guy Gardner and all this stuff,
okay, I
and
guess I'm on the
seems
fence
very
about
very
that.
busy. And there's also James Gunn, which I don't really like. I mean, I like the Guardian movies, but I don't love them. Is
Fair,
like James
same.
Gunn. James Gunn is kind of like is sort of the same problem I have with Quentin Tarantino, in that like he's like he tries so hard to be cool
Right.
that it's insincere, right?
At least James Gunn does not have a foot fetish problem.
Yes, but he's got a lot of other problems. Believe me.
That's true. No, that
Don't
is
ask
true.
about the all the Hollywood women and everything.
Right,
And
right.
no,
Because I remember like when I saw the first two Guardian films, I liked them, but since then going back, it's like I do like them. I'm not like obsessed with them with that point.
no, no. Yeah, the first one was good. I enjoyed the
Yeah, I
first
did
one,
like
but
it, but it's just again different mindset when I first saw it
yeah,
compared
and
to
like I
now.
said, this was the mindset that we had because we were seeing the expanded universe of superheroes for the first time.
Bro,
We are
bro,
in the downfall. We are in
bro,
that they are phasing out. Superhero
bro.
movies are phasing out. You'll get a couple ones that are okay, but
Yeah,
it's going the way of the
yeah,
dodo. And I really
yeah.
think the
That
next big boom is really going to be video game movies.
Yeah,
I think.
for me personally, I have no interest to catch up to every Marvel film at this point, or even like the whatever left over the DC extended universe.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
same here.
yeah.
I'll watch, the last superhero movie I saw was the recent Deadpool.
Right. Well, yeah, that was an
Deadpool
exception.
and Wolverine, but that was it.
Yeah.
I had
Right.
I had
Same.
no interest in seeing anything that
Right.
Marvel or DC was really putting out, because
Right.
it's like, all right, what else can they do?
Well, makes
Superman again, okay,
Deadpool parodies everything. That's what makes it so funny.
right. Right,
Yeah.
and it's just and how long could that last? How
We'll see. I don't know.
Ryan Reynolds is in everything, and he kind of does the same shtick. So
That's true. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
and speaking of Superman, well, I guess you would say, how would you say it? Either last month or last year, whatever, because we're in the new year. It's like, but besides the point, I saw the Christopher Reeve documentary, and it was very good. But I mean, granted, I'll admit it was sad and depressing, but at the same time, it
Yeah,
had
I
like a
saw it.
heartwarming
I saw
moment.
it too. It was a great
It
documentary. It's
was.
heavy. It's
It
heavy, guys.
is.
If you have not seen it, it's very very heavy.
I knew something, but it's like there were some things I didn't know. Like for example, I did not know that before his accident, that was not the first time he fell off a horse. He fell off a horse before, but he was lucky to survive the first time.
Right, right. And
Yeah,
I didn't know the relationship between him and Robin Williams.
I a little
I
bit. I
didn't
knew
know how
about
close.
that.
I had no idea how close they were, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's also interesting, like watching how, like, when he got the role of Superman, how he originally was going to be like they wanted him to wear a muscle costume, but he said no, I'll work out and get in shape for the part
right,
because
right. He
he
become
was
like
he was
yeah,
he was athletic. He wasn't a muscle guy, but he was like a gifted athlete. Christopher Reeve.
yeah. He really was born to play Superman for sure.
Yeah.
I wish
Yeah.
they would get Cavill back, but I know with Hollywood politics, Hollywood doesn't
Well,
like him.
besides that, I don't think Cavill's not interested anymore in playing Superman.
Yeah, and he's on to bigger and better things anyway. So
Yeah, true. And I thought Cavill was alright. He's just not like during the time after watching the Christopher Reeve
he was not.
documentary.
Yeah, I always
I
say he was not the problem with Man of Steel.
right.
He was not the problem. The problem with Man of Steel for me was the tone. It was too dark and too bland for Superman.
Yeah.
Um, and considering like Hollywood tried to even do like a darker version in the '90s with Nicolas Cage. I'm probably the
Yeah.
only one that knows about that.
No, I know about that too. I watched the documentary about the Superman film we never got.
Yeah, thank God, because the amount of things that they were thinking about doing would have made Man of Steel look like a traditional
Right.
Superman movie.
Yeah. To me, my biggest gripe with Man of Steel was just too much on like action and not enough on like story and characters. Where when I go back to watch the original Superman with Christopher Reeve, it's focused on again great story, great art, and Superman questioning his faith about is he the answer to Metropolis, and how like here's another example. After when his father died, Jonathan Kent, his stepdad, at the
Right,
funeral, he's like, I have all these amazing powers, but I could not save my father. It's like that is like some heavy, like very like powerful
right,
lines to say.
right, exactly, and it kind of ties into like Christopher Reeve Superman, maybe some people might find, I guess a younger audience might find the original maybe a little hokey, but it
Sometimes it
real
does.
it
It
really
has a
does have some great acting on the part of
yeah, it does. It has a balance of like a little bit of goofy, campiness, and serious at the same time.
and that's the balance, but that's Superman. Superman is supposed to be a
Yeah,
little goofy,
yeah.
a little bit
When
hokey because
I
that's
was
what he comes from.
when I saw my nephew during Christmas break, me and my nephew watched the first Superman film with Christopher Reeve. And he loved it. He enjoyed it. And I said, "Look, there's Superman."
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt like a kid all over again with watching Superman with my nephew.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the films that kind of takes you back. Um,
Yeah,
for me, especially, considering my grandfather was really the gateway to everything superheroes. He
yeah,
was probably one of the biggest Superman fans in the world.
right.
Um, and every time I watch that film, it always kind of tugs at my heartstrings a little bit.
Yeah,
Especially the death of Lois. There's something about Reeves' reaction that just cuts you to the core, and you can almost feel how he's feeling. You
yeah.
know, but that's the
Well,
mark of
also,
a great actor.
yeah. Well, like watching that documentary too, I learned that besides playing Superman, he did do other things outside of Superman. But at that
Yeah,
time, he was
Rear
typecast.
Window as well.
Yeah, I know about that. I haven't seen it. Also, he did a film called Somewhere in Time. It's basically like a love romance, like sci-fi time travel film.
Right.
Yeah, I know about it, but I've never seen it. I heard it's pretty good, and
Yeah, I have to catch up on the rest of his
yeah, I'm
filmography for
curious
sure.
about like other things, like his other films, and also it's interesting to read about how he turned down like a certain film. Like he turned down Lethal Weapon. He turned down trying to think of other films he turned. I know it was Lethal Weapon, but sorry if I'm drawing a blank about other films he turned down. But
That's
it's
okay.
interesting. Yeah, you get the point.
Yeah.
Yeah, he basically turned down big film roles. Who knows how it could have how it could have changed his career, how it could have affected his career. You never know sometimes.
Exactly, and it's
Yeah.
one of those
I
things.
guess I guess I can see why he was offered Lethal Weapon because of his working relationship with Richard Donner and Superman.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah,
Yeah.
and directors tend to use the same people, so yeah.
Yeah. And also with talking about Superman, I never knew about the Richard Donner cut until way later, but I think everybody found out later about the cut about how like during the making of Superman 2, Richard Donner was fired during the making of that film. They had to reshoot scenes, they got a different director, and honestly, I think the Richard Donner cut is, I mean, don't get me wrong, the theatrical one is okay, but because of Richard Donner's direction, I think Richard Donner's direction was a better, suitable Superman.
Right, right, yeah, and that's definitely a cut that I got to track down myself.
Yes. Yes.
So that's definitely on the list. So
Yes, you got to check it out. It's worth the. You'll be surprised, like thinking, you know what, the studio made a mistake. They should not have fired Richard Donner.
hey, listen, it happens in filmmaking.
Oh yeah,
Sometimes
true, true,
sometimes the
true.
director's vision is out there, and other times it's
Yeah,
not really.
yeah. I'm not sure how true this is. He was either director of Superman 2 and 3. One of those directors admitted that when they directed one of the Superman sequels that they were not a fan of the comic books or Superman. It's like, then why hire this guy?
Right, right,
It
right.
makes no
Hire
sense.
somebody that clearly knows the source material.
Right,
For
exactly.
sure.
That's like how similar like Kevin Smith, who was a huge diehard comic book fan, but yet he doesn't get enough like respect or attention to direct a comic book movie.
Right, and for better or for worse,
Or
I know the comic books he's written. Some of them are good, and then some of them are pretty bad.
yes, he did write some good Daredevil comic books that I loved a lot. And
Yeah,
speaking of also, here's another example: Sam Raimi went long before Spider Man. He wanted to direct Batman or The Shadow, but he was rejected by studios because they did not think he was that experienced enough. It's like, wait a minute, did you not see his Evil Dead movies?
well, here's the funny thing about the Shadow connection.
What's that?
For all you Darkman fans out there,
That's true.
that's really the reason why Darkman exists, is because Sam Raimi could not
Get the
secure
rights.
to Shadow,
No,
so
for Batman.
he went and did Darkman, and that's why
Yes.
Darkman exists. Darkman is sort
Yes.
of like, I can't do the Shadow, so I'll do this instead.
That was the idea of Darkman when he made it. That was when studios rejected him for making a comic book film. He said, screw it, I'll make up my own comic book movie that's not
Right.
based on
Which is
anything.
basically like a Freddy Krueger Shadow type.
That and also like Lon Chaney's Phantom of the Opera,
Yeah, yeah, I could see that. But
yeah, a
but yeah, a
classic.
little fun fact for all you guys that like Darkman, and but that was sort of Raimi's excuse to the studio, is like, okay, I can't make the Shadow,
Or
I'm gonna make
Batman.
Darkman instead.
Yeah, but also he was off after when Burton was booted off the franchise. He was a possible candidate for Batman Forever, which I could have seen him do Batman Forever.
Yeah, yeah, I would have loved to see where Burton's Batman would have gone. I
Yeah,
would have.
and don't get me wrong, Burton did a great job with both films, but compared to Sam Raimi and Tim Burton, Burton has admitted that despite making two Batman films, he's not really a comic book fan, whereas Sam Raimi, he's a comic book fan.
Hmm.
Yeah,
I mean,
I know. It's
what could have been? What could have been?
could have, should
I would
have.
have loved to see either guy's take on Batman. I would
Yeah,
have loved to
true.
see it.
Yeah,
I mean,
true.
heck, if Raimi, if he really, really wants, could even give us a Batman fan film
I
now.
wouldn't
But
mind.
I wouldn't. Here's the thing. I say this as a Batman fan. I think Batman needs a rest.
Right.
Like, we've had two Joker movies,
Yeah.
one that's bombed. We just Joker fatigue in the comic books.
Franchise fatigue.
And it seems like Warner, the only like thing they got going is Batman, and listen, I like Batman. I'm a Batman fan,
Oh
but it's
my.
like, come on, give it a rest. Let us want another Batman, film. I
Well,
think if Raimi is willing to do it, you should hire Raimi,
right.
and give us a return to Gotham, like that Burton-esque Gotham,
Right.
where
Well,
where
if you look at Darkman, there is some like gothic atmosphere, like the way
right,
Burton
right.
did for
Yeah,
Batman
but give
'89.
us give us a return to a more Burton-esque Batman. I mean, heck, if Burton even wants to, because I know he's been kind of on a roll with Beetlejuice and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
Actually, Burton said he's not interested in doing another Batman film or just comic book movie in general.
all right, well, that answers that question.
Yes, no, no, like, well, I've always known that in the past about Burton. Like, yeah, he directed Batman movies, but he's not a comic book fan.
Yeah, that's kind of surprising, considering he probably made one of the two best Batman films.
Bro, but some people are like that. They're not into a certain like thing, but yet they're like, oh yeah,
But
this is
they're
a
really
comic
good at
book character.
it.
Yeah, it happens. Like that's
Go
similar.
figure.
That's like a similar like Brian Singer is X. He did X Men, but he admits he was not a comic book fan. And
Yeah, and his X-Men films are pretty all right. You know,
yeah,
The first two. The third one is
I could take it or leave with the third one.
yeah, it's not the best.
No, it's all right. It's not the worst compared to the other things that have come out recently.
But it's funny. I went back and I watched the original pretty recently, and it still holds up. You
Yeah,
know, I
it
I
wasn't.
always like the
Granted, it's
design of
not. It's not.
Sabretooth and
It's not the perfect comic book film. It was a lot better than what came out before at that time with comic book movies.
oh yeah, because it was still trying to find its footing. Because
Yeah.
this was the early 2000s. We were coming off the heels of the 90s. Everybody wanted to be edgy and dark and green, like because everybody saw Blade, and everyone's
Yes.
like, all right, R-rated X-Men movie, but we kind of want to curb it to kids, so PG-13. So okay, let's give the X-Men like biker gear, not the traditional costumes. So we'll give them like biker gear and leather and everything's the
The
Matrix.
first the first movie when they're going out to fight off Magneto and the others, and Wolverine's like, you actually wear these costumes, and Cyclops says, "What were you expecting? Yellow spandex?"
Yeah. They deliberately like that was during a time, and maybe we can do an entire episode on this. I would love
Yeah,
to. I would love to do an entire episode on
the X Men movies.
the mentality of comic book movies back then. There was a time where like we were almost afraid to have things be a comic book. It was really the affect of the '90s with Underworld and everything like that. Everything had to be cool and edgy.
I
A
actually
la
have a good.
Daredevil 2003, which I've heard the director's cut of that movie is good.
Yes,
I
I
need
have
to
a
track it
confession though.
down. I'd love to see it.
I've never seen the Underworld films. I think Daredevil 2003
I
is
have,
great,
I
but it's not
have,
that bad.
I have, and they're all right for what they are. They're all right for what they are.
Right.
We'll talk about those another time.
Right. And not that I mean to change the subject, but here's something I wanted to make a YouTube video on this, but I figured, no, what the hell? We're doing a podcast. Here's what I wanted to touch upon. Last month, like after when I was finished with school, I took a day off, a mental break, to relax. I went to the movies, and as I'm looking at like to see what's playing, it's like, but I picked this movie called Y2K. It's basically, in case you don't, younger audiences don't know what Y2K was, back in 1999, everyone thought that the world was going to end. Everyone thought that computers were going to take over people's lives, and like, think it was Judgment Day was
Yeah,
going to
and I
happen.
mean, it was the '90s version of like what people say about like AI now, of like,
Right,
oh, the
similar to a
computers are taking
degree.
over. When the grid goes down, we're all doomed.
Right,
We're all gonna be set back to the
right,
stone. You
right.
know,
And I admit, I was 6 years old when that happened. Well, okay, nothing happened, but as a 6 year old, I did not think nothing of it or not know what that was
no,
until I got
we
older.
didn't care. We were busy listening. Well, at least I was listening to like Linkin Park, and I was a
Right.
little edgy kid.
When I was 6 years old, the only thing I knew about is how to ride a bike, how to throw a baseball, and
Right,
what time the
I was
cartoons
busy
came on.
hanging
That's
out with my
it.
friends on the street corner, my neighbors,
Exactly. That's
on my
all I knew
neighbor's
about in
lawn.
1999.
We didn't
Yeah.
know.
Yes.
We didn't
Right.
know.
And movie wise, okay, it's like somehow I feel about Final Destination. I like the concept. There's potential, but it was just not done as well as I could have been.
Right.
Right. And it basically would have worked better as, like, imagine this. You have, like, these people who work for a computer company that are predicting Y2K, but no one's listening to them. And here could be the twist. The boss knew about it. He just let it happen because he's an evil, greedy, corrupt boss.
Kind of cliche, but
A
okay.
little bit cliche, but still, it was better than what I saw in the movie theater, where you have a bunch of these like cliche teenagers who want to get laid, and also the cliche hero who is not the most handsome guy, not a jock, not the most popular kid, and he wants to get with the
I
pretty girl.
I feel like this would have been better if it was written by Kevin Smith.
I could see that.
I feel like if it leaned into that, especially considering that like I feel like much like the '80s is kind of trendy now. I feel like the next quote unquote decade trend, I guess you can call it, is going to be probably the '90s.
Yes,
Like
well, this
it's
movie. Not that I'm saying it's the first one, but this movie started that already because the opening scene it had the old AOL and you got mail. And ironically, that guy died recently.
right.
Right. How ironic is that? And also, it already had that like nostalgia vibe. Like, damn it, I forgot what the '90s are like with VHS stores, no social media. It's like I'm just forgetting
And
how
I could say I'm a '90s kid, but
somewhat. But
guys, I was born in '95. I was
'93,
an aughts kid. I got the tail end of the '90s, but I
same,
got a
same.
lot of reruns. But
Yeah.
it's funny how you know things become new again.
Right.
You
But
know,
like I said once in a previous podcast, how like being born in the '90s and semi growing up in the late '90s, having older siblings. By the time I was a teenager in the 2000s, I was still stuck in that like '90s time warp zone because I was finally watching the things they used to watch that I wasn't allowed to watch at that age. And
right, and
yeah,
that's just growing up in a nutshell. It's just
yeah,
you know,
yeah. Yeah, for Y2K, I didn't hate or love it. It was mediocre, but I respect why maybe some people won't like it. And that's
it
fine.
sounds like
Me,
it could have been better given a better
yeah,
director.
exactly. That's and also you don't care about spoil the movie.
No,
Do you? This
no.
one, there was a scene like how like after when the world is set, I'm like okay, but I hate the bullshit cliffhanger ending where just we think all of humanity is safe, but nope, the robot is still alive. I'm like, give me a fucking break. Of like, oh,
Right.
like we
Right.
want to
It's
be like
just
we want another
and
sequel to this movie.
like I said, like to open it up with a sequel to the movie, like I feel like it would have been funnier if like in real life all this panic and hysteria turns out to be actually we're all still alive, ha ha ha, and
Right,
it's like I feel like that would be so much more funnier if you can kind of
right.
make it like I
Oh,
feel
wait.
like this movie on its face, its premise, and this is coming from a guy who hasn't seen it.
Right,
On its face, I feel like it could be our version of Mallrats. This
I
version,
guess.
of Mallrats or Empire Records, where it could be this cult hit that's pretty funny.
And
Um,
knowing you that you are a huge heavy metal fan, Fred Durst had a cameo in the movie.
Fred, wow, that's that. I don't know whether to take that as a compliment or an insult because
No, 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 it's a compliment.
I'm not the biggest Limp Bizkit fan,
Okay, fair enough.
but
Fair enough.
yeah, it's like I'll take that. I'll take the. Well, I'll take it. I'll take it
Well, basically
because
the
it's
point
just
is for basically
as both a wrestling fan and a kid of the 2000s, basically, born in the 90s but a kid of the
well
2000s.
when this movie came out, when I was watching like YouTubers' thoughts on the film, everybody was like praising, yes, Fred Durst cameo.
Dude, I remember Fred Durst cameo in the 2000s. I remember him on like WWE television singing the Undertaker's theme song.
Right,
It's like it's not a big deal. I remember the hatred, like people just hating on Fred Durst. And
right.
like I
Well,
never understood the appeal of Limp Bizkit. I never really
right,
liked new metal outside of Linkin
right.
Park when I was a kid. Not
Right.
so much now.
Well, you would know. You're the heavy metal expert. Me, I listen to heavy metal, but I'm not like a big like expert junkie.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm more of a I'm a music fan. I'm up there
right,
with James Rolfe for sure.
right.
Um,
But like I said, seeing this, I'm thinking, okay, like I have to mention this in the podcast. I'm sure my friend and buddy Wolfman Sam will touch upon this part a little bit.
I'm sure, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But that's really all I can say about Fred Durst is like if I were to see it, I'd be like, oh, okay, Fred Durst. So
Right. Yeah. Not
yeah,
the best of the
that's kind of
worst.
like showing kids Pauly Shore. If no one's gonna know who Pauly
No.
Shore is,
No.
but
No. That
it's
could have gone either way. They showed Pauly Shore instead of Fred Durst in the film. I don't know how that would have turned out or
yeah.
not. I
There's
think.
gonna be some '90s kids that get it for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
But it sounds like this could be a much better
Well,
film.
I got some things about the film, but I did not get the Fred Durst part, though. Unfortunately, sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
The Nosferatu remake, I made a YouTube video on this, but a brief summary. I thought it was okay. Again, nice visual gothic atmosphere, decent performances. I thought Bill Skarsgård was okay as Count Orlok, but look-wise of Count Orlok, not my favorite version.
I've seen some screenshots of it. I have not seen it, So,
Yeah, I don't want to give any spoilers,
but from what I've seen, it seems pretty gothic, right up my alley. So I have to
yes.
get around to seeing it for sure.
Yes. To me, it's just one of those things. Like they already did a remake back in the '70s by Werner Herzog. It's like, okay, that was good, but it's like, how many more times?
And I like the '70s remake with
Yeah, it was
was it
good. I liked it.
Klaus
Klaus
Kinski.
Kinski as Count Orlok. But to me, the original Silent 1922 version is my favorite out of them all.
Yeah,
That's just
that
my
one has
opinion.
probably the best atmosphere, even for a silent film.
Yes.
It's just
Yes.
creepy, and the look, Max Schreck, the original look, it
Yeah.
can't be touched. Like
And
he just
what's
looks like a vampire. If you told me,
yes.
and they made a movie about this
Shadow of
called
the
Shadow
Vampire
of the
with William Dafoe,
Vampire.
and William Dafoe was in the Nosferatu. Right? It's like he has a connection to
Yeah, and he's a
Nosferatu.
good actor, and
He
he
is.
doesn't he basically play. Well, they don't call him Helsing
No,
for obvious reasons, but he basically plays Helsing.
he
From what I've
does.
seen, like I said, he's the selling point. I want to see it.
Yes, and also Lily Rose Depp did a great job too. Despite
I've
I'm
heard.
not familiar. I know obviously we know she's related to Johnny Depp, but I don't know other things she's done.
Right. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Cool.
solid, just solid. Not the best or great, just okay.
Very, very cool.
Yeah,
All right.
worth checking out for curiosity. If you're a fan of the original
Oh,
Nosferatu.
I definitely have to check it out. I don't know if I'll have to wait and get a ticket to a movie or wait.
Fair
I'll probably
enough.
wait until it comes out on
Yeah.
TV or DVD
Well,
or
you know
whatever.
me. I just wanted to see it to catch up and make a video on it. To, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Make content, man.
Yeah,
For sure.
exactly.
All right.
And also, it was another day where I just got out of the house and a little escapism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Is there anything else you want to talk about, or you
No,
want
I
to
think
do?
we've summed up. But well, one more announcement. I will be going to school to be studying to be a physical therapist assistant.
All right. So this podcast for future notice, I guess we'll take a hiatus. I guess a little bit.
I guess we'll figure something out.
Yeah, we'll figure something out. We'll try to keep things consistent for you guys. We do this. We try to do this once a month. But with our schedules, him being very busy and me being not so busy, with the exception of my own content, we'll try to make it work. And
Dracula Dead and Loving It. Schedule?
schedule, yeah. That's both our lives. Just schedule. Anyway.
Well, Dracula Dead and Loving It is not the best, but it's not the worst thing compared to other things recently.
Yeah. But with that said, I've been Wolfman Sam, here with my co-host Johnny Buff Guns. We are Creatures of the Night, and we will both see you later.
Yes. See you next time.